Ole Miss at Kentucky. Kentucky right now about a 10-point underdog. This game is going to be 3:30 Eastern time on ABC. Love Kroger Field, man. I love going and doing games in Lexington. It's always a great environment, and I know it will be for this one as well. Since Lane Kiffin got to Ole Miss in 2020, Ole Miss and Kentucky have played 3 games that were decided by a total of 7 points. All 3 games were decided by 3 or fewer points. Kind of crazy. For whatever reason, Kentucky has matched up very well against Ole Miss the last couple of years, especially last year. For Ole Miss, you know they're searching for some revenge, right? September 28th last year, they're top 10. They have playoff hopes. They're undefeated, and they were stunned at home by a Kentucky team that kind of rocked them to sleep and then hit a big play. Now, that loss was the loss that really kept Ole Miss out of the college football playoff. And I'm sure they've thought over and over and over again about that 4th and 7 that they gave up when Kentucky's sitting there on their own 20-yard line, Stoops off to go for it, throws a streak down the left-hand side, game-winning completion, sets up the game-winning touchdown. I know this has been one that Lane Kiffin has had circled all off season to try to get some revenge after the disappointment that was last season's result. For Kentucky, they have not looked like the Kentucky of old the last couple of years. What are they trying to do this offseason with a whole host of transfer players that have come in? They're just trying to regain that super physical puncher's identity. Now, they've had some challenging trends the last couple of years, right? They've lost 11 of their last SEC home games, 11 of the last 13 SEC home games. They've lost 14 of their last 17 games against power conference opponents. A second consecutive victory over Ole Miss would serve as a massive narrative-flipping upset, and it would validate that 2024 win as reality, not so much the fluke. Let's look at the quarterback matchup. Ole Miss's Austin Simmons was really good in his debut, showed the poise, touch, accuracy, and the ceiling. He spread the ball really well, connected with 8 different wide receivers. He's got great command of Lane Kiffin's offense. There were 2 interceptions that kept the game maybe a little bit closer early in the game. One I would attribute to the offensive line. The other was just a really, really bad decision. This is his first career start and his first true road test, and we know how hard it is to go on the road in college football. For Zach Calzada, Kentucky's quarterback, it's his 7th year of college football. He's on his 4th college team. It was not a great start last week. He completed just 10 of 23 for 85 yards and an interception, made some mistakes, had some inaccurate throws, also took a sack in the end zone. So there are a lot of things to clean up for Zach Calzada, but at his best, he's been really, really good. He's been kind of a giant killer in his own right. Remember, he was the quarterback in 2021 for Texas A&M that knocked off the number 1 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. That was Zach Calzada a million years ago, but it's still the same guy. Still got a strong arm, still has a lot of ability. Let's go to question number 1. Can Kentucky's defense contain the explosiveness of Ole Miss's offense? Now, Ole Miss had 695 total yards. That was more than any team in college football that played on opening weekend. And Mark Stoops and their defensive coordinator, Brad White, they've historically kind of played a very conservative style against Ole Miss. They have really been physical and have won against the line of scrimmage, and they have not allowed Ole Miss to create those explosive plays that always seem to fuel their attack. And in the 3 games that Ole Miss have played against Kentucky under Lane Kiffin, their offensive production has gone down just a little bit at a time. In 2020, they had 459 total yards. 2022, they had 399 total yards. 2024, they had 279 total yards. Now, why is Ole Miss different this year? I think it's because they actually have a potential difference maker at running back with Missouri transfer Keelan Lacey. He immediately established himself, had 108 yards and 3 touchdowns, had an explosive 42-yard touchdown run. That newfound quality at running back makes them much more balanced than they were a year ago. I love the Penn State transfer Trey Wallace, who kind of emerged as Austin Simmons' go-to guy, had 5 for 130 and a touchdown. And the tight end spot is also something you need to be very aware of because Daquan Wright and Alabama transfer Caleb Oden, they combined for 8 catches, 135 yards, and a couple scores. Question number 2. Can Kentucky play keep away by running the football? In order to kind of disrupt the rhythm of the tempo offense that Lane Kiffin likes to employ, you got to keep that offense on the field, off the field. And your offense needs to stay on it so you can play great defense with your own offense. So Kentucky has to establish the run. They got to convert third downs. They got to methodically move the chains, and not necessarily always about scoring points. They just got to be really decisive and slow the game down, shrink the game to the point where Ole Miss might feel like they're pressing because they haven't been on the field in quite some time. In week 1, the Wildcats ran for 220 yards against Toledo. They have a really nice 1-2 punch at running back. Dante Dowdle went for 129 and a touchdown, and Seth McGowan went for 78 and a touchdown. You watch these two guys run, man, they run angry, really angry. It's fun to watch those guys hit the hole because they hit it at 100 miles an hour. Now, if you look at Ole Miss's defensive front, a lot of new faces, but there's one holdover from a year ago. That's Xavier Harris. He was great last week, super disruptive against Georgia State. And granted, I understand that it's Georgia State, but anytime your stat sheet looks like this, you got to feel pretty good about what you're getting from a defensive tackle. He had 1.5 tackles for loss, a sack, 2 quarterback hurries, and an interception. So pretty good place to start. This is a remade front seven for Ole Miss. They lost a lot of star power off last year's team, but they feel good about what they have in the front seven. They actually think they've improved in the back end defensively. Question number 3. Can Ole Miss's O-line step up to the challenge? Against Georgia State, the offensive line was really inconsistent, and the guards in particular got beat on several occasions. They allowed 6 tackles for loss and 1 sack, and that was against a team that plays in the Sun Belt. That's not going to be good enough because if you look at Kentucky's defensive line, they have some experienced players. Khalil Sanders, Josiah Hayes. They brought a high-impact transfer from David Gusta from Washington State, Myquise Humphrey-Grace. Now, you also had a couple guys that were in the rotation, like Sam Green, Steven Souls. Those guys made some game-changing plays as well. They had 6 tackles for loss and 3 sacks. Now, there is a critical factor in this matchup, and that's the health of Myquise Humphrey-Grace. He was the 2024 Missouri Valley Conference Defensive Player of the Year. He had an ankle injury. He's kind of listed a day-to-day. I would expect him to go, but if he can't, that could be significant for Kentucky's defensive line and the disruption they hope to cause. Question number 4. Can this revamped wide receiver core for Kentucky get going? The Kentucky wide receivers were not at all a factor in last week's game. They had just 4 catches for 12 yards. And the passing production was almost exclusively through the tight ends, Josh Caddis and Willie Rodriguez. They counted for 5 catches at 74 yards. They only had 85 passing yards overall. So they need to make sure that they spread the love and get these wide receivers involved because it is a pretty talented group, but they just didn't get enough opportunities last week. I will not be picking this game. I'll be on the call alongside Sean McDonough, and Molly McGrath will be with you at 3:30 Eastern time on ABC.